You wake up in the dark. No walls, no lock, not even shoes. Somewhere close, something is breathing. For most of human history, this was normal. You were not the top of the food chain. You were on the menu. No alarm, no porch light, no one keeping watch. And yet your kind was never wiped out. You survived. You won. How did a soft, slow, almost naked animal outlast everything built to kill it? The answer is not one thing. It is nine, stacked together. And the last one shapes how you sleep tonight. Before you can appreciate how astonishing the victory was, you have to sit with how bad the starting position really was. So let's go back, way back. Picture an early human, 2.5 million years ago. Small, fragile, a brain still under construction, no fire, no real weapons, no language to speak of. Biologically, this was not a hunter. This was a prey animal, plain and simple. Something bigger, faster, and hungrier. Chased it, caught it, and ate it. And the predators back then were not the lions and leopards you see on a nature documentary today. They were worse. A lot worse. There was a prehistoric hyena the size of a modern lion, with jaws strong enough to crack open, the thigh bone of a full-grown bison like a chicken wing. There were saber-toothed cats, with canine teeth longer than your hand. There were cave bears that stood taller than a doorway, and weighed more than any bear alive today. And here is the cruel joke of it. Our ancestors lived out in the open, usually close to water, which sounds smart, until you realize that water is exactly where every predator waits. Because every predator figured out the same thing. Prey has to drink eventually. So you sit by the water, and the food walks right to you. Early humans were basically strolling into the same trap every single day, just to stay alive. So they should have been an easy meal. On paper, they should have vanished in the first 100,000 years. They didn't. And the strangest part is that a shadow of that ancient danger still echoes inside you right now. Think about the last time you walked into a dark, unfamiliar room. Before you relaxed, your eyes flicked to the corners. You checked the edges. You listened. Nobody taught you that. It is older than teaching. That quiet scan is the ghost of an animal that once lived on the menu and never fully forgot it. So the real question is not whether you carry that fear. You do. The question is how your ancestors ever managed to outlive the things that caused it. So, how did a slow, soft animal survive a world full of things designed to kill it? The first answer is almost embarrassingly simple. They stopped facing it alone. A single human at the water's edge is dinner. But picture a predator creeping toward, not one person, but 25 of them. Some are already on their feet. Some are shouting. Some are grabbing rocks and stepping toward you, together, as one loud, furious wall. Suddenly, that easy meal looks like a trip to the emergency room. There is real math behind this, and biologists have a name for it. They call it the dilution effect. When you stand alone, the odds of being the one that gets taken are 1 in 1. When you stand in a group of 25, those odds drop to almost nothing. You did not get faster. You did not get stronger. You just stopped being the only option on the table. We even see the blueprint in our closest relatives. Chimpanzees, when they corner a leopard, do not fight it one-on-one. They mob it, together, screaming and throwing whatever they can grab, until the big cat decides. The meal simply is not worth dying for. And here is the part people forget. A big predator almost never actually wants a fight. For a lion, a single kick or a well-aimed rock to the face can mean a cracked rib, an infected wound, weeks without hunting, and weeks without hunting means starvation. At the top of the food chain, the margin for injury is razor thin. So a wall of screaming, rock-throwing humans is not worth the risk. The predator does the math, turns, and looks for something quieter. Now, notice what that ancient equation still does to you today. Walk into a crowded room and your shoulders drop. You feel safe, even among total strangers, but spend too long alone, cut off, unseen, and something underneath starts to ache. We call it loneliness. We call it missing out. But it is older than any of those words. It is the leftover wiring of an animal that spent a million brutal years learning one lesson. Alone, you disappear. Together, you survive. But there was one stretch of every single day when the group could not save you, when numbers meant nothing, the moment you closed your eyes. Think about how insane sleep actually is. For roughly a third of your life, you go completely offline, blind, deaf to most things, unable to run, unable to fight, unable to even know that something is standing over you. For an animal with no walls and no door, in a world that hunts in the dark, that is not rest. That is a nightly gamble with your life. So before fire, our ancestors reached for the oldest trick in the book. They went up. Long before houses, before campfires, the safest bedroom was a tree. Get off the ground, and you quietly delete most of the things that want to eat you. Lions cannot follow. Hyenas cannot follow. You have taken a list of a dozen deadly threats and crossed off almost all of them. Almost, because one hunter climbs. Leopards are expert climbers, and we have found human bones dragged into trees. A tree did not make you safe. It only shortened the list of things that could reach you. And this is not a guess. Look at the bones. The shoulders and arms of early humans kept their climbing hardware, long after their feet had fully committed to walking. Evolution does not pay to keep expensive equipment you never use. They were still going up at night, every night. Caves seem like the obvious upgrade, and sometimes they were. One entrance, easy to defend, shelter from the cold. But there was a catch. Caves are also where the big predators sleep. Cave bears, cave lions, cave hyenas. They are literally named after the address you were trying to move into. Half the time, finding shelter meant negotiating with a tenant who had claws and a very short temper. And that is why, thousands of generations later, a child still swears something is under the bed. It is why you check the lock twice and sleep a little better with a hallway light on. The predators are gone. The night watchman in your head never got the memo. So the night belonged to the hunters. Right up until the moment a human being reached into a wildfire, pulled out a burning branch, and refused to let it die. You have heard that fire mattered 1,000 times, but I want you to really feel why. Almost every large predator on Earth carries a deep, built-in terror of fire. It is not something they learn. It is written into them, from millions of years of watching lightning and burning forests they could never fight and never predict. Fire, to them, is pure, unstoppable threat. So imagine you are that leopard again, slipping through the dark toward a sleeping group, but this time there is a glow. You feel the heat from 40 steps out. You see the light, which means the darkness you were hiding in, is suddenly working against you because now everyone can see you coming. Something old and cold in your brain says no, and you turn around. That is what fire gave our ancestors. Not just warmth, a wall made of light that almost nothing was willing to cross. The night, the single most dangerous part of being alive, quietly became survivable. They slept in shifts. Someone always fed the flames. Someone always stretched the edge of the dark, and fire kept giving. The smoke pushed away the insects carrying diseases. That killed far more people than any lion ever did. Cooking broke open nutrients and killed the bacteria hiding in raw meat. Hold a wooden spear tip in the coals, and it hardens into a real weapon. Fire even let people push into cold, high country that had always belonged to predators alone. Before fire, the world was something that happened to us. After fire, we started happening to the world. And here is the strange part. That relationship never ended. Watch what happens when people sit around a campfire. Everyone goes quiet. Everyone stares. You cannot look away from the flame, and you feel calm in a way you cannot quite explain. That is not random. That is hundreds of thousands of years, telling you that this glow means safety, means warmth, means your people are near. And tonight, long after the predators are gone, you will do it again. You will lie in the dark and stare into a smaller fire, the glow of a screen, soaking up light until your eyes finally close. Fire held back the dark. But the next thing our ancestors built held back something even bigger. It held back death itself by refusing to let knowledge die with the person who earned it. Picture an old man by that fire. Years ago, he watched a friend get killed. At a certain bend in the river, where the tall grass comes right down to the water. He cannot undo it. But he can do something no other animal on earth can. He can turn that horror into a sentence. Do not drink there. Not at dusk. That is where they wait. And just like that, a lesson that used to cost a life now costs a few words. The children who hear it will never go near that spot, and they will tell their children the same thing. One person's worst day becomes a warning that protects people who will not be born for another 100 years. This is the quiet superpower of language. Every other animal starts from zero. A gazelle cannot warn the next generation about a specific waterhole. But a human group becomes a living library. Every dangerous plant, every hunting trick, every safe path is remembered, shared, and stacked on top of what came before. You were no longer limited to what you could learn in one lifetime. You inherited the hard-won lessons of everyone who came before you. A single band could carry the combined wisdom of a dozen lifetimes at once, and none of it had to be relearned the hard way. And you are still running that ancient program right now. When you warn a friend about a bad part of town, when you text someone to get home, when you pass down a piece of advice you got from your own parents. That urge to hand your knowledge forward, to protect people you may never meet, is not just being nice. It is the oldest survival tool your species ever invented, still tucked quietly inside a simple, everyday sentence. Be careful out there. Up to this point, everything our ancestors did was defense. Hide, huddle, climb, hold the fire, pass the warning. They were surviving the predators. They had not yet frightened them. That was about to change. And it changed because of a stick. In a coal mine in Germany, archaeologists pulled something out of the ground that rewrote the story. A wooden spear, roughly 300,000 years old. And this was not a sharpened branch. It was engineered. The weight sat toward the front, balanced like a modern javelin, shaped to fly straight and hit hard. Somebody understood, deep in their hands, how to make wood cut through the air. Making a weapon like that takes planning, patience, and a picture in the mind of a moment that has not happened yet. Now, think about what that actually meant. For the entire history of life, a hunt happened up close, inside the reach of teeth and claws. To hurt something, you had to be within range of getting hurt yourself. A thrown spear broke that rule. Suddenly, a human could open a wound from 10 steps away and never enter the danger zone at all. And here is the part that quietly flipped the whole planet. Predators learn. When a lion sees one of its own, take a spear to the ribs, and limp off to die, something updates in that animal's brain. This shape, walking on two legs, is not food. This shape is a threat. And that lesson gets passed down, generation after generation, until entire species of hunters start giving humans a wide, nervous berth. For the first time, the fear was pointing the other way. And you have never let go of that instinct. You are the only animal on Earth that relaxes when there is a tool between you and the threat. A locked gate, a fence around the yard, a camera by the front door, a phone in your pocket that can call for help. You feel safer keeping danger at arm's length? On the far side of something you built, that calm is not modern. It was born the day a human first realized you do not have to be close to win. But the deadliest weapon our ancestors carried was never in their hands. It sat behind their eyes. Picture the mind of someone who had lived on that land for 40 years. They did not just know the area, they carried a map of it, drawn entirely in danger and safety. That valley is fine in summer, but a death trap once the snow drives the predators down. That waterhole is calm most of the year, but after the dry season, the lions move in, so you do not go near it. Every ridge, every tree line, every shadow had a feeling attached to it, and that feeling could keep you alive. None of it was written down. It lived in memory, in stories, in the quiet hum of caution that came with knowing a place. Scientists have a name for this. They call it the landscape of fear. Every prey animal has a rough version of it. But humans did something no other creature could. They spoke their maps out loud, layered one person's memory on top of another's, and passed the whole thing down through generations. And then they went one step further. They did not just avoid the dangerous places, they started changing them, burning back the brush, driving the hunters out, turning red zones on the map into safe ones. And you are still walking around with that exact same map, updating it every single day. It is why you slow down a little on a dark, empty street. It is why you avoid a certain part of town without ever quite deciding to. It is why you take the route you know, park under the light, and feel your guard quietly go up in a place that is too quiet. Nobody handed you a list of rules. Your brain is doing what it has always done, sorting the world into safe and not safe, sketching an invisible map of where the danger lives. The predators changed. The map maker in your head is still working the same shift. It started a million years ago, and if every other trick failed, if there was no fire, no group, no spear, no clever map, the human body still hid one last, deeply strange weapon. Up close, over a short distance, we are a joke. Almost anything out there can outrun us in a sprint. A deer, a lion, even a squirrel would leave you in the dust. But stretch that race out. Not 100 meters, but a whole afternoon. Now something bizarre happens. The human quietly becomes one of the greatest endurance athletes on the entire planet. Here is the trick, and it comes down to two things. Almost nothing else has. You walk on two legs, which sips energy instead of burning it. And you sweat over nearly your whole body, cooling yourself down while you keep moving. Most animals cannot do that. A lion runs in furious bursts, then has to stop and pant in the shade before it overheats and cooks from the inside. So early humans did something audacious. They picked a target and they simply followed it, walking, jogging, tracking, never letting it rest. The animal would sprint away in terror, again and again, until it staggered, overheated, and finally collapsed. The hunters never had to land a single desperate blow up close. They just refused to stop. Hour after hour, they turned the animal's own panic into a slow, patient collapse. It sounds almost too simple to be deadly. It was not, and that engine is still bolted inside you. It is why a human can run a marathon, 26 miles, on nothing but willpower and steady breathing. It is why you can grind out that last mile on the treadmill when your body is begging you to quit. When you dig deep and keep going, long after something faster would have given up. That is not modern grit. That is the oldest hunting strategy your species ever had, still humming in your legs, still whispering the same thing it always has. Keep going. They always stop before you do. And then, somewhere along the way, all of these layers stopped being separate tricks and fused into one thing: the group, the fire, the spear, the stories, the maps, the endless endurance. Stack them all on top of each other. And you do not just get a survivor. You get something the planet had never seen before. And around 50,000 years ago, that something quietly flipped, the oldest rule of all. By this point, our ancestors had fully modern minds. Real language, rich and layered, art on cave walls, snares and pit traps, plans that stretched across seasons instead of seconds. And with all of that, they did the unthinkable. They stopped running from the monsters, and they started hunting them. This is not a nice story someone made up. It is in the ground. Archaeologists have found the bones of cave lions and cave bears, killed by human hands, on purpose, not in a panic, not in self-defense, hunted. Some of those bodies were carefully cut apart, the hides taken, the remains arranged in ways that hint at ritual and meaning. Read between the lines, and the message is almost deafening. The thing that used to eat us in the dark is now the thing we drape over our shoulders. We are not prey anymore. Not ever again. Sit with how staggering that is. A soft, slow, almost naked animal, the same one that woke up in the dark, counting the steps between itself, and something breathing had climbed all the way to the top. And that is the world you were born into. You have almost certainly never once, in your entire life, seriously felt like food. But here is the quiet twist. The predators are gone, yet the mind they built is still fully switched on. Every instinct we have talked about, the fear of the dark, the pull of the crowd, the calm of the fire, is still running silently inside you. You won the war so completely that you forgot it ever happened. And that is exactly why the way you live tonight still carries the fingerprints of the animal that refused to be eaten. So, how did they survive? When everything on Earth wanted to hunt them? Not by being bigger, faster, or stronger. They survived by standing together, keeping the fire, passing the word, and learning faster than evolution ever could. The predators vanished long ago, but the fear they carved into your ancestors never did. It is still here, tonight, sitting quietly on the other side of a locked door. Here is the thing. Almost every strange little habit you have was once a way to stay alive. And the nightlight, the campfire, the crowd, that is only the beginning. If you are curious where the rest of your instincts come from, stick around for a while. Because the next habit we pull apart is even stranger. Like why your brain still feels a little safer with your back against the wall